live tonight?
All right, guys, this is Kurt Clapier here with highschoolwrestlingmatches.com, and we got a good show for you tonight. We're excited. We're going to go over this is our first Illinois high school wrestling podcast. We've got four guys on the line here. We got legendary broadcasters or legendary webcasters in the wrestling arena in Illinois. We've got Mac Bolen here. I'll let Mac introduce the rest of the team here in a minute. We've also got Andre Morgan. If you follow Illinois wrestling at all, you know who they are. They're on every major broadcast for Illinois wrestling. And we got a great show. We're going to talk all Illinois wrestling tonight. But before we get started, I want to show you guys real quick what high school wrestling matches is, since this is our first show. Let me show you my screen so I can show you guys around this. Give it a second to load my screen for you. Come on, baby. It's not letting me screen share. I'll show you at the end of the show. How about that? I'll get it fixed while we talk. So,
sure.
Anyways, I'm going to turn the time over to Mac. We're going to get started, talk Illinois wrestling, and go from there. Sound good, Mac?
Sounds good.
All right, you're on.
All right, this is Mac Bolen, IllinoisMatman.com, and I am here tonight with my Illinois Wrestling Hall of Famer broadcast partner, Andre Morgan.
Hello, everybody.
Father of Mario Morgan, D2 champ for Omaha, Nebraska. I am here with legendary Providence Catholic head coach Keith Healy and Crystal Lake Central Wizards of IKWF Kids Program, also legendary in the IKWF, Anthony Fontanetta. So I'm going to start right off with you, Coach Healy, and just, real quickly gloss over last season. Providence Catholic, awesome run in the 90s, fell down a little bit, recently had a resurgence, fourth place finish in the dual team state this year, and you hit a milestone of your 500th career dual team win, and I was there at Mount Carmel when it happened. So just gloss over last season.
Yeah, last season ended up actually started out a little bit slow, but as the season went on, progressed. Get just a bunch of young kids in the lineup. That did a pretty good job as the season went on. Kind of bought into the system and figured out, at the beginning of the season not is as important as the end. So hitting 500 was awesome. That was nice and early in the season to get that off the books. It was kind of nice, no pressure as we went on. So it was nice to get that done early. And like I said, season went on and did really well at the conference, won a tough regional, and went on and beat a good solid Edwardsville team at the sectionals to get downstate again. So it was exciting.
Okay, and real quick, at the end of the season, I get contacted by a couple of the tournament directors, and Bob Pressman at the Ironman, and then Lance Hughes at the Clash. And, they ask, well, what's a good team for the field? Who might we want to add? And speaking with Lance Hughes at the Clash, first I thought about Lake Highland Prep in Florida, coached by Glenbard North state champ, in fact, Mark Hahn's first state champ. And basically they become what was the brand in Florida. And they asked me about Illinois teams, and the first team that popped into my head, I said, well, for a dual meet format, I thought, Providence Catholic. And, I don't know how it all evolved. I put the bug in his ear about, like I said, right at the end of the season. And then I just posted something on Illinois Matman, and the next thing I know, bang, Providence Catholic is in the Clash.
Yeah, it was something that I thought we needed to do. Caliper around the area is getting so tough that a lot of these kids are looking for that recognition at that national level. it's been a few years since we've been good enough to travel and compete against those teams. But it's going to be pretty exciting to be traveling, up and getting prepared for those types of matches. So in the long run, it's definitely going to help.
So is this going to be Providence's first time in the Clash?
Definitely, yes. We used to go to Ironman long time ago.
Sure.
Then we had to pull out different reasons. And then, every once in a while we'd dual meet with St. Ed's. That was probably our biggest type of duel. We used to travel up to Wisconsin and wrestle those guys up there. It's been a nice day up there, but this will be our first time in the Clash at the national limelight.
Yeah, just to give a quick background for listeners maybe who don't know, when I talk about national tournaments, and a lot of Illinois teams participate in the national tournaments, and when I mentioned the Ironman, the Walsh Jesuit Ironman in Ohio, considered probably the toughest in-season high school tournament in the country, and then like the Cheesehead in Wisconsin, another difficult tournament, and then the Clash in Minnesota. And all three tournaments are interesting because they have different formats. Ironman is your typical, individual bracketed tournament. Cheesehead follows a pool format with completely different scoring. And then, of course, the Clash, 2 days, and it's a dual team meet format. And, first day it's 4 brackets of 8 teams, 32 teams, and then from that, they place everybody into a pool going from championship all the way down. And so it's possible for a team to go 6-0 because you will wrestle 3 duels each day or 0-6. And last year, of course, Dakota was there, Washington was there, Marmion Academy, Oak Park. And it's a very difficult tournament. Dakota, I remember when I interviewed Coach Albert after the first day, and I mean, you could tell the frustration on his face because they ran into very, very tough competition. And I think that, it's a great step for Providence Catholic to jump into a national tournament like that.
Yeah, we're just looking to better our schedule just a little bit. Our schedule's always been really pretty solid. Wrestling at the Dvorak tournament, obviously starting out the year at Conant every year.
Sure.
Our conference tournament is just as good as some of these other tournaments. But the biggest thing that, like you said, each kid's guaranteed matches. It's not just a tournament where a kid's going to lose twice and be done.
Exactly.
And it gives the opportunities for the teams to get together and kind of bond a little bit.
Say, Mac, let me ask Keith something real quick. I was thinking about listening to what you guys are talking about here, and I just kind of want to dial back from the national scene to right here in Illinois for a minute. I mean, I've been watching you coach all through the 90s. How many state championships did you win in the 90s, Coach?
We won 6.
We won 6.
Yep, 6 in a row.
You were the standard of excellence, and one of my earliest memories is I took my son who was the state champ in 8th grade and I'll take you to this place. I want to say it was at Leiden, and you were in the state championship against Mount Carmel, and you won that one. So that would have been 2001, 2002, 2000. It was 2001 because he was a freshman in 2002. So you were the state champs in 01. And they let him sit on the bench with the varsity. And I looked at him and I looked over there at Providence and I said to him, "That's Keith Healy and that's Providence. Can you get involved with this type of thing?" And he says, "I can't wait. I love this. I want to compete against Providence." And the reason he said that, and I got it, was because you guys were the standard bearer. You were the team to beat. And lo and behold, obviously he ended up into one of the all-time great rivalries in Illinois wrestling with one of your all-time greats, Kyle Hutter.
Yep.
And I'm just wondering, before you go national, when you've got all this at-home competition and all these rivalries, the Catholic League has just re-energized itself now with the adding of Marmy and Montini, with the adding of them. And but the Catholic League really, Keith, wasn't the same when you had those few down years. Yeah, all of a sudden, I'm to be honest with you, as a competitor, it's not the same. Now that you guys have that home base and you're getting back within the Catholic League and you got new competitors, how does that change your approach to your coaching style before you go national? Just taking care of home, I guess, is what I'm asking.
Yeah, it really doesn't. Like I say, our major goal at the end of the year is to be a state champ and to win a team title. And the road you take to get there is just sometimes a little bit different. And like I say, the more matches you can get, the better prepared you are. But I think the biggest thing with going to a tournament like the Clash is that the kids get to feel what that level's really like.
Right.
Because really, what I'm really looking for is these kids go to college and succeed in college and do whatever they can after that. Because that's really what it's all about: getting these kids to the next level and to get them college degrees and keep succeeding in life.
Well, what I've noticed, Keith, is when the kids come from the IKWF, and Coach will speak on that a little bit later in the broadcast, they come in with the national pedigree. These kids now in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade are competing at the national level in their tournaments. And they don't want to go to a high school that's, one, they can't win a state title at, and two, that they don't have an opportunity to compete in national-type tournaments because they want to be seen. They want to get recognized, and they want scholarships. So with your joining the Clash, which what I find out is that leads to another national tournament. At some point, you're going to be in 2 of them, not to mention the Dvorak. That's
Which
going
is,
to, the Dvorak is a national tournament as far as I'm concerned.
Basically.
One of the best bracket boards in my house is the Dvorak Championship. It's important. But your kids that you are recruiting, you can now sell yourself as a national program like the other teams in the conference.
Correct.
I mean, stop me if I'm wrong, but I think that's important.
Correct. Because the biggest thing is being able to inform these parents that because of our schedule, because of our conference, there's going to be money available because you're going to have the national recognition. So you may have to spend a little bit now, but hopefully down the line you'll save it.
Well, let's be honest. You have a powerhouse around the corner from your school that they could go there for free. So you have to offer something. And you know what I'm saying.
We know what you mean.
I'm going to keep it real.
Yeah.
So here's a parent with their son who's a stud. Why should I go to Providence? Why should I go to that other school? Oh, well, Providence is going to the Clash. Oh, Providence is going to Dvorak. Oh, their coach has 500 wins. That's how us parents think.
And I would also point out on what you mentioned before, because if you go back in the day, Chicago Catholic League Conference, you're looking at the great teams of Mount Carmel in the 90s. You're looking at the Providence run, 90s, 2000, St. Rita when they had their run, and were relevant, all the way through.
Why did you have to? Yeah, why'd you have to bring that up, Mac?
Hey, you got to.
Two guys that don't.
You got to. Hey, you got to. Like you said, keep it real.
Yeah, they scroll special.
The point is, though, now, for I would say prior to this year, the Southwest Suburban Conference, which had Sandburg, Lockport, was probably the toughest conference in Illinois. Now, with the addition of Marmion Academy and Montini Catholic, that changes completely. Because now, like you were mentioning before, a kid going to Mount Carmel, to Providence Catholic, to St. Rita, they're competing in a conference that not just has nationally ranked teams, but a ton of nationally ranked individuals. I mean, you can look through, Jake Tucker from Mount Carmel, for instance, perfect example, who definitely benefited from that exposure going to Mount Carmel.
Right.
And it's going to evolve. I mean, now with all those teams there, my personal opinion, Chicago Catholic League this year already hit that mark. It hit the high bar. You and I stood there, watching those matches and those finals matches where you had literally just about every single finals match had a nationally ranked kid competing.
Well, look at it like this, Mac, and I think Keith will agree with me. Mm-hmm. You have to have the cornerstones of the Chicago Catholic League. Marmion is nice. Montini is nice. Well, look, keeping it real, they're new kids on the block. The cornerstones of the Catholic League are Mount Carmel and St.
absolutely.
Rita in any sport.
And Providence.
And I'm sorry, I said that wrong. I meant Providence and Mount Carmel. I'm sorry. The cornerstones are Mount Carmel and Providence. And so, like I was saying before, he had a few off years, just like Mount Carmel had a few off years.
Absolutely.
But when both those teams are solid, and trust me, Coach is being modest, but he and I talked briefly. He's got some things in the hopper that when they get to Providence,
sure,
he's just getting
started. And he's already got some good young guys. Your Catholic League champ, who's what? Was a freshman.
You don't want to see this year's freshman. Just trust me on that.
Yeah.
One. I'm a twister.
Yeah,
I know
he was a freshman.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead and speak about him real quick. Like I said, we saw him wrestle. He was very impressive.
Yeah, it was Ramos did an awesome job all season. He just got satisfied with some things, just like most kids do. Partially my fault, I guess. We had certain goals, and once we met them, that's when the kids were satisfied. And I think that was a big learning curve for us this year.
Yeah, you going into the individual state tournament.
How many guys, Coach, did
Correct.
you have?
Yeah.
Real quick, Coach. How many guys did you have in the quarters and the semifinals at the individual state? Because every time I looked up, there was guys in little green singlets, and I hadn't seen that in a while.
Yeah, we had the 6 guys qualify.
Yeah, they were all over the place.
We had the 6 guys qualify, and they're all freshmen and sophomores. And they did a great job. Like I said, we, got the two guys to place, and hopefully we'll get more as we go.
That's just crazy. You had 6 freshmen and sophomores.
Yeah, well, that's it. It's a young team.
So he couldn't even send them to the Frost-Off State to win because they qualified for the varsity.
Right, because they qualified. Yeah, and that's the thing, and that's why I say, with the rise of this program, with all that youth, the upside for their program is spectacular. It's unfortunate that this year we weren't able to webcast the Chicago Catholic League Championships because, let's face it, I sat right there, and those finals matches were phenomenal. Go back to the quarterfinals, semifinal matches. It was great stuff.
It will be broadcast this year,
and
we will make that happen.
Now, going real quick, Coach Healy. Celtic Junior Elite kids wrestling program. Ben Gertis is running it now. Just real quick, speak on the importance of having the support network of a kids program feeding into the high school programs.
Well, that's obviously the biggest key. If you get kids that come in with great success, it's just fine tuning them from there. And just kind of working. But if you don't have the horses in the race, you're not going to be in the race. And that's the bottom line.
And the coach,
and that's what the public schools have done too. They've found out ways to get those kids in the door and stay from. Lockport is a great example. I think they got the
Porters are
Lockport Stallions kids program, and I'm always over there trying to pass some kids over, because that's how you beat them. You got to get them all.
Well, Coach, and you bring up a great point. I don't know the exact years that you guys weren't really in the mix, but just roughly 2000 and, 9, 10, 11, somewhere in there. And guys were saying to me, well, Coach Healy can't coach anymore. Well, he's not good anymore. Well, it's time for Coach Healy to retire. And I stopped this one guy that was saying that, Coach, and I said, so let me get this straight. He doesn't have the horses, but he can't coach. Well, they were already good. I said, everybody's got already good guys. If you take the good guys from Mount Carmel or the good guys from Marmion or the good guys from anyone, then, they're not going to win. You have to have talent to do this.
Absolutely.
So it's important that your talent base, as we all know, with the Little Celtics, when it switched over to the Celtic Elite, it had fallen off at the end of the Little Celtics run. and now it's
Correct.
back up.
Yeah.
Now it's back up, and there was, of course,
And they got great numbers. They got good kids. You know.
Well, they got a great facility. I
Numbers are
did
great.
Absolutely, great facility. I saw the
Phillips
pictures.
yeah, I did a whole thing on the facility. So, like they say, if you build it, they will come. But that didn't diminish your talents. You know, I mean, Phil Jackson didn't win 6 NBA titles without Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. I mean, I'm sure he's not gonna say, I don't need those guys. I'll win anyway. You know, your talent level makes you better, but you still have the talent to coach, and we're gonna see that in the next few years.
I hope so,
Absolutely.
and I appreciate that because I used the example of a kid that qualified for state 2 years ago that I don't think anybody would ever thought he was ever going to qualify for state, and that was Matt Glenn. He had a brother that was really good from
Glenn, yeah.
Marion Catholic. You know, he decided to come over to Providence for football, and I convinced him to continue wrestling like his brother. And like I say, he was a kid that nobody ever expected to do as well as he did. So.
Now,
But I
do you
mean-
still host the kids tournament?
We do. It's actually the Celtic Elite runs it over at Lincoln Way Central because they have a facility that holds more mats.
You don't.
Right.
They run that tournament with 12 mats now.
I
Wow.
think that Mac, that is the. Remember I talked to you about broadcasting
Yeah.
that one day. That is the best
Yeah.
kids tournament
Oh, I agree.
in
Absolutely.
Illinois. Number one.
Absolutely.
And Keith, I would say that that's kind of a national tournament. I mean, he's had several teams there. T.J. Williams brought a team there. Ben Askren brought a team there. You know, there's been
Ben Askren, Wisconsin.
there was-
Yeah, we get some
So-
teams from Missouri.
Yeah.
There's some teams from Iowa. You know, so it's become
Yeah,
a
yeah.
pretty prestigious tournament now.
yeah, and that's in your backyard.
Correct.
All those kids can't go to Lincoln Way Central, can they?
No, and
Nope.
it's going to be reduced because one of those Lincoln Way schools is closing, but that's a whole
Stop.
other issue.
Stop. The Lincoln Way around the corner is going to
Yeah.
get the benefit of some of that. Don't.
Yeah.
there's no
yeah.
doubt.
Oh,
Yep,
did-
East benefits. You know, they all win and lose in that situation. So.
yeah. Real quick now, since we're talking about the kids program, I'd like to go to Anthony Fontanetta here. And Anthony, now you had the Crystal Lake Wizards, one of the top kids programs in Illinois. Go ahead and just talk real quick about what entails running a successful kids club and where your kids go, because they don't all just go to one. You mentioned earlier, we talked about the Marsdens, etc. And talk about some of your kids and their accomplishments, and then how your program has evolved.
Yeah, and like Coach, Andre said, we try to follow the same philosophy as the high school. I want to get these kids exposed to the bigger tournaments. We already mentioned Celtic Elite, Midwest Classic. We try to travel to wrestle the best kids. You ain't gonna hide come state time. I try not to preach to the kids that your record is great, but at the end of the year you're looking to be a state champ. And that's kind of how we run our room. Been fortunate. I mean, I kind of went through the schools. I came up with like 26 high schools that we fed into last year. From Central to South, PR, Jacobs, Huntley, all the way out to Rockford. So we're fortunate, and having the partners is a key too. Depending on who's running the room, you might get away with it, but if you don't have good partners that are there working hard and getting each other ready and pushing each other, Central has gotten most of our stellar ones. We already mentioned Austin and Andrew Marsden, Joe Kilbasa, Gage Hara, both the Youts. But like this year we had Fernie Silva, who was with us, and Michael Peterson.
Huge win in the finals.
Michael Peterson, and there's some next year. Josh Fiegel will be one to watch next year. Josh Stenger. Another one we had was Brandon Briggs. I think he was a 2 or 3 timer out of Capron. So we've had some pretty good athletes.
Coach, you bring up a very good point that your job, essentially, after winning a state championship, is to get these kids ready for the next level. Now,
Absolutely.
one of the things that was a big adjustment for my son and of course he wrestled in the prehistoric days. But the kid level does not do a ton of dual tournaments. It's mainly individual tournaments, and so coming to high school was kind of a change in style for him, in that now you go to class and you go to school, you go to class, and then you go to practice. Whereas when you're on the kid level, you go to school or class, and then you go home, and then you go to practice. How do you prepare your kids for that difficult transition of, now you're in a dual format, now there's only 14 guys wrestling, now every guy doesn't get 3 matches. If you're not one of the best guys in high school, you don't wrestle. How do you prepare your kids for that success and or failure of the dual high school format?
What we try to do now, last year we were missing some big bodies, so it was hard for us to do duels. But one thing I've noticed, the IKWF is kind of making a conscious effort to do more duels, which I think is phenomenal, because that's what you're getting those kids ready for. I want to get them ready for, the Coach Healy's, get them ready for high school, and then like Coach said, he's getting them ready for college. So like the year before, I think we did probably 7 or 8 dual tournaments, and Askern had teams there, and it was great competition. And then you're right, they're basically fighting for a spot. It's not necessarily a wrestle off for your weight, but
it can be.
You're fighting. Yeah, you're right.
I'll tell you a quick story. I remember my son was 10-1. We went to Ohio, and when we got back from Ohio, it was the 3rd week of December. Coach Wick put in the paper, the kid's wrestling like a senior, and then the next day he said, "Oh, you got to wrestle off tomorrow."
Yeah.
And he's looking, my kids look at me like, "Wrestle off? I'm 10-1. I'm ranked number 1 in the state. You got to wrestle off tomorrow." And that's an adjustment that kids are not used to. But and did I mention that the kid he had to wrestle off with eventually was the number 1 kid in the state 2 years later? So these rooms are packed with guys that can go, and they're the backup, and they're just waiting. How do you get your kids into that?
And that actually, depth, when you talk about that, depth helps make a very successful high school program.
Correct.
Yes. Well, without depth, you have nothing.
You have to have that 1 or 2 or 3 guy. Sometimes he may not get a chance to wrestle until his junior or senior year, but he spent all that time gaining that experience and wrestling with high school and national champs. So when he does eventually step into that starting role, he's ready.
Well, here's something I'm sorry.
Coach.
I thought of something that, Mac, you just hit on, and it kind of bounces back to Coach Healy. Coach Healy had said he had 6 guys that were quarterfinals or state qualifiers, and they were freshmen and sophomores. So, Coach Healy, were there seniors in the room that these guys had to beat out or compete with, or were there practice partners? That's the beauty of wrestling, is you may have to help an underclassman who's more talented than you. How did you handle that?
Well, you just handle like everything else. It's my challenge system is pretty simple. They always know when the challenges are coming, and best man survives.
Oh, we didn't know that at Mount Carmel. We didn't know the challenge system. You just showed up and you had a wrestle. I should have got that paperwork from you and gave it to those guys. But it was also good in that you're always ready. You have to always be on point with your weight. You have to always be ready.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Yeah, sure.
This is for Keith. You sparked the question. Being an outsider from Utah, I'm curious, what is your challenge system?
I actually do a 2 out of 3 challenge system. So say I'm wrestling Andre in a challenge and I beat him once. The next time around he beats me once, then that 3rd one is the guy who decides who's going to go or not. So it's
and
not
when do you do that?
Just a one. I do one in the beginning of the season. I usually do one right before the Dvorak, and then right before conference or regionals, depending on how the week is. So
and that's a fair system.
That's fair.
Yeah, and that's pretty similar. I think Oak Park does the same thing. They have their depth chart, and they do a 2 out of 3 too.
Right. And the one thing I do is I always leave myself open a little bit. So say it's Andre beat me in an overtime. I beat him 1-0. I may have a fourth challenge just to make
Right.
sure I got the right guy.
Sure.
Because it could be a situation where I know going into the regionals I got the number 1 seed, and the backup beat him once during the year, but he's going to be a 4th seed.
Yeah,
Well,
another thing about the youth of the program too, real quick, you can't determine kids' weight classes. And while we all like to say, you've got the depth on the team, but you have that time when you have a bunch of guys right around that same weight,
Right.
particularly with the lighter weights, and that's a tough thing to deal with.
How many kids get to go to the state tournament and state qualifier in Illinois? Is it 1 or 2?
You could get 3 out of your sectional. So if you had 3 70-pounders that were good, as long as they place 1, 2, 3, they can go.
They can go.
And it was
at
fun.
the high
You
school
picked it
level,
up.
though, you only can enter
Only
one
one.
per weight.
Yeah.
You're 14 in high school.
See, and that's the beauty though of the kids wrestling. The fact that they can, during the IKWF season, you could have 5 kids at the same weight class, and they could all enter a tournament and wrestle.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But if you're trying to win a team title, that's not what you want to do.
Well, no, but what I'm just saying is the experience you can gain as a kids wrestler, because you don't have to compete for a spot at the high school level. So
And we
kids
had-
wrestling, you get that experience.
In 2007, 2008, when we won the senior title, we had my son Nick, Trevor Yauk, Michael Zalesko, and Cullen Smith. We're all about the same weight. They made the decision. 1 went up, a couple went down, 1 stayed at the weight, and I think 3 of the 4 were state champs 2 out of the 3 years. So
Wow.
the kids figured it out, and they, and they'll figure it out. And I guess how bad do you want it?
We had that same issue in Harvey, and Keith, you'll understand this. We had Curtis Lloyd, we had Thomas Webster, and we had Mario
Webster,
Morgan, and they were all the same weight classes. and we're trying to win a team title from Martinez Elite, so we could not have them at the same weight. Well, we didn't have a wrestle off. We just sent the guy to cut the weight the worst. He's the one that had to go up, and the one that cut the weight the best, he went down. And the other guy was in the middle, and they worked it out, like you said, and we won that title. But it is weight cutting, and that's something that I hope we have time to touch on, if possible, is a whole different ball game at the kid level versus high school versus college. My son told me it was very easy to cut weight in college. He said it was very hard to cut weight in high school, and it was impossible to cut weight at the kid level. That's the way he explained it to me. How do you guys handle that? That's for both coaches.
As far as the kids, I try not to promote the weight cutting. I try to promote the sport. I don't want to turn those kids off. Not to, downplay an IKWF title or whatever. But the main goal is getting them to wrestle in high school. Coach gets them ready for college, and if they're fortunate enough to get a scholarship, that's why we're doing what we're doing. I don't want to turn a kid off, making them cut weight. That's just my opinion.
Well, a good point, though, again, going back to the kids wrestling, a lot of those tournaments are blocked weights. I mean, until you get to, the structured tournaments where there's actual weight classes, a lot of tournaments at the kids level, you go in, you weigh in, and then they make pools based on the age and the weights, and a lot of times it's not a solid weight class.
Correct.
But they still get to wrestle.
Good thing now is, track wrestling, not only is it good because of what it does, but track wrestling is a record of what those kids were at. You could look last week, a kid was 85 pounds last week, and he's wrestling 70 pounds this week. People notice that, and people are called out a little more now than when you did.
Yeah.
So
It's kind of nasty down there on the kid level, boy.
absolutely.
I've been seeing coaches get called to the carpet. And it should be that way. Okay, here's the thing. 2 or 3 pounds, fine. 5 pounds, 10 pounds, no way.
They're growing.
Exactly.
And you got to let them grow. You got to help them grow.
Or they're going to hate it. That's all they're going to do. They're going to end up hating it.
Look at it. I looked at it like this. My son on March, Keith, was the 79-pound state champion. And he's a football player. I said, and we didn't even talk about wrestling. I said, you ain't playing football in the Catholic League if you're not at least 100 pounds. Minimum. We'll get to November. This kid made the weight. I had him make weight for football because gain weight, get bigger. He was eating everything. Nothing, you just got to work with your kids and help them be who they're supposed to be, not tear them down.
Absolutely.
And I think parents get involved in that too much as well. But I guess that's a whole nother show, parental involvement. I won't do that to you guys tonight.
Don't call me on that one.
I'll be on that one.
Here goes the mute. Hey, somebody's got to drive them to practice, right?
Yes, sir. We just lock them out of the room.
we do that in Harvey too, but it's getting harder and harder.
Yeah.
Oh, real quick, I want to give a shout out to AJ Rodriguez.
Absolutely.
Helping put this together. Great job, AJ.
Thank you.
Yeah, Keith, you missed out on his boy. He was around the corner from you.
Yeah, he did a nice job over at the other school.
Yeah, he did.
My buddy Clamara.
That's right, he is. I forgot about that.
Yeah, real quick point, since you mentioned that, for people who may not be totally familiar with Illinois wrestling, if you go down to those southwest suburbs and collar cities, they are virtually an absolute loaded hotbed of wrestling clubs and high schools. And the competition at the kids and the high school level is brutal. We mentioned about the Southwest Suburban Conference, and then a lot of the teams in the Chicago Catholic League. I mean, it's brutal. It's deep. Coach Healy, go ahead.
Yeah, it's exciting to see. I started when I was 5 years old back in Burbank with the Burbank Panthers when the IKWF really got going, and it's great to see the numbers the way they are. I know that Lincoln Way West has their program, and they got over 100 kids. The Celtic Elite has well over 100 kids. Lockport, and that's not even including all the IHSA programs in the neighborhood that feed Lincoln Way Central and some of those other schools. So the numbers of kids that are wrestling is just phenomenal, and it's great to hear, from Coach about not burning them out, with the weight loss and things like that. The biggest thing in high school is trying to teach them how to do the body fat testing for college, and kind of working from there. So at least they got a better idea what's ahead of them down the line. So.
Yeah, and Coach, real quick, during your run, is there any specific team during that run of state championships, that was maybe in your mind special, or I hate using the word loaded, but particularly, just I mean, from top to bottom, no weaknesses.
Well, that was pretty broken up, so I'm not sure. Yeah, that was pretty broken up, so I didn't get to hear his question.
He asked who your. Go ahead.
During your run of state championships, 90s, early 2000s, and I hate comparing teams, but is there any specific team, Celtic team, during that time frame that you felt, top to bottom had no weaknesses, was the one that in your mind maybe was the toughest?
That's
I know that's a tough question.
Team that we were preseason. It is, like I say, but top to bottom, once we got everything situated, the '99 team was preseason ranked number 1. Went out to St. Ed's and lost to them, but that team was rock solid with numerous state champs.
Alrighty, Anthony, right. Go ahead, Andre.
Well, I was just wondering, you had crossed over to AA by '99, correct?
I was always in 2A.
Yeah.
I don't know, for some reason I thought you were 1A, but maybe I'm thinking about the football.
Well, no, Providence was 1A a long time ago. In fact, And I don't
Correct.
think I'm
That was
mistaken
back
on
in
this.
the 80s.
Yeah, but I don't think I'm mistaken on this. I think Providence Catholic and maybe Montini Catholic are the only two schools that have qualified for the dual team state in all three classes at one time or another, A, 2A, and then 3A.
I know in 1983, 83, that was my senior year, Chris Scott was the first one to place in 2A for Providence. So 83 was the first year that we were up in 2A. And dual meets started after that.
Right. So, Coach Fontanetta, real quick, what's your outlook on the upcoming season for IKWF?
As the Celtic, the Force. I mean, there are so many, the Twisters, there are so many good clubs and good kids. One thing I've seen, you don't even have to go to an elite tournament anymore. You could go to almost any Sunday tournament, and you're going to run into a buzzsaw and get some good competition. So, I mean, the future of high school wrestling is nothing but on the up, and even beyond those kids going to college. So, I'm looking forward to it. Glad to be a part of it.
All right, and Coach Healy, real quick, looking forward to next season for the Celtics. What are like some of your key dates, tournaments? Obviously, you know we covered the Clash a little bit. Just looking ahead.
Yeah, you know, it's really hard to pick out a date. Obviously, our conference is in late January. You know, but I really don't specify. You know, it's really hard. I know we got Marmion Academy early in the season.
Okay.
You know, St. Rita's middle of December. Mount Carmel is that's our end of the season every year. It's the week before regionals. We always wrestle Mount Carmel in a duel. So
okay.
That's a good way to prepare yourself.
Mac, you got to do it like this with Coach. You got to put him on the spot. You got to put him on the spot. Watch this. Coach, I can authorize us to broadcast one duel, one Providence duel. Who do you want us to broadcast to the world?
I would have to go with that's hard.
You've got everybody who's healthy. Everyone's healthy. What's your showcase duel? Because this is a coming out party this year for Providence. You and I both know it. So let's cut to the chase. Who do you want to come out against? Who do you want to tell your kids, this is the team we're going to make our statement against?
That's a really tough call.
Well, you got Marmion Academy, which you know that team's loaded.
I can get it broadcast, Coach.
You know, and that's only because I have one of the kids I coached that placed 4 times for me. So. Marmion Academy would be one.
Who do you match up well with? You match up well with
obviously
them, right?
Mount Carmel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I think
there's
so.
nothing like
we'll
that.
see. A lot better than we did last year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I just wanted to put you on the spot.
So tournament schedule. What's your tournament schedule next year? Obviously, Chicago Catholic League. Obviously, you're in the Clash. You're doing Conant still, correct?
Correct. Dvorak and then Geneseo still.
And still Geneseo, okay. So you've got a pretty loaded schedule.
Mid-January, yep.
Yeah, and then now you're doing individual duels against all.
Like I said, it's
brutal.
Mac, we have to be fair here now.
Yeah.
I put Coach Healy on the spot. Where's Coach Anthony?
Yes, sir.
It's your turn. We talked about dual. We talked about dual meets.
Shit.
Now, because it's IKWF, you get 18 weights. What team would you love to duel in the entire state? Who would you say broadcast this duel? Here we come, Crystal Lake against.
I'll tell you what. Well, because they're last year's champs, I'd say the Force. You know, to be the best, you got to beat the best, right?
Okay.
Right. So
We're
And
talking
for people
six.
who don't know, the forest is down near the Naperville area.
yeah, but I'd say them. I think they snuck up on Martinez. I don't think it would happen again.
I don't think anyone saw that coming.
No, they snuck up a little bit. But go after the best, right? So
Yeah, absolutely. Coach? What's the best IKWF team you've ever seen? Or, I mean, who's your
Probably-
pickers?
I'll tell you what. Back in, and I'll go back to 2006, 2007. Probably the Celtics team was. With Klamara and Cooper and
Okay.
Koger. They
Yeah, they
had
were
some
loaded.
freaks. And probably Sons of Thunder that Estrada
They were
had.
loaded.
They were loaded. Yeah, as far as those were some of the best, and all the Martinez, you pick a year, as well as the Twisters. I mean, they
And
don't
the
do
Twisters,
duels,
yeah, sure.
but
They're
the Twisters are solid from top to bottom. I mean, there's nothing that compares to them.
Coach Healy, what's the best high school team you've ever seen? Doesn't have to be a Celtics team, any team. And you've been around a long time. I mean,
Oh, you know who I'm going to talk about.
we ain't talking about. Do we know who you
No,
want?
go ahead. No, not at all. The two teams I'd bring up would either be the East Leiden team back in 1978, or would be St. Edward, the year they had that absolute murder row in six weight classes, particularly on the back end.
So who you got, Coach Healy?
I'll tell you, there was so many good ones. I know Mount Carmel's, when they had their run, they had a couple teams that were unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, Oak Park, the last couple of years, that's.
Well, that was a
those are teams
ridiculous
that are-
team.
Yeah.
That team's ridiculous. The one that had Kamal Bay on it.
Correct. Like I said,
Yeah.
I mean, just those past couple of years with Oak Park, I mean, shoot, every time you turned around, you had another state champ you had to wrestle.
Right. It was ridiculous. I like the '94 Carmel team. I just feel like they had everything in every weight class. And again, I was impressed with your '99 team.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very, very solid team. Nowhere to hide. Sometimes you just can't hide. You just gotta step
And then
out
you
there.
got, like I said, don't forget about that Providence team of 88, I think it was, with Bourmet and
Oh yeah.
That was a
Curtis
loaded team.
and-
Oh yeah. No, that '88 Providence
Donich,
team was brutal.
I mean, Richardson. I mean, they probably had 6 state place winners that year.
And then there's the 05, 06 Carl Sandburg team, which was just also ridiculous. When they had that first run of 3 in a row,
yes,
but that middle
yes.
one was just absolutely loaded. Preston, Colts.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah, they were.
It almost was unfair. Okay, here I got another one for you too, Coach Healy. Besides yourself, who's the best coach that you've ever had to compete against? And you've been against all the legends. Well, hey, it's Andre.
He's
Morgan.
faced the best. He's faced the best. Han.
You know what? I was
Wick.
just going to say, one that comes to my mind as a coach that does an outstanding job and doesn't always get all the good talent is Coach Hahn over at Glenbard North. Consistently getting downstate, consistently battling with all those teams in the area. Like I say,
Right.
he's always got great numbers and does a great job with kids that sometimes you don't even know who they are.
No, he does cultivate that area and maintain that area well. And one of the things that he has that I don't think any program can claim to have is he's got fierce loyalty. I'm still trying to find out what the hell the gold dot means.
Good luck with that.
I mean, they have, as you said earlier, Coach, they have bought into the system.
Mm-hmm.
And
Correct.
when kids buy into your system, when I used to coach in another sport, I always said, if I can get you to buy my system, if you believe in the system, then I can plug anybody in that spot. You know, I can go from a Hutter to a Clamara to, you know, I can just plug them in. But if I'm trying to get you to believe first, it takes 2 years to get you to believe in me.
Well, and that actually, you know, a good point. A lot of times can start at the kids level too. You know, and I'm sure Coach Fontanetta would agree with that. You know, guys buy into a system at a kids program, and then when they go to a high school program, if you look at all the successful programs right now in this state, you know, and you know, I know Coach Healy here is a humble man, but they're all coached by stellar people. You know, and you and I, Andre, could agree on that. You know, look at Coach Healy, look at Coach Powell, look at Coach Griff Powell at Lions, look at Martinez, look at Siebert, you know, and as we mentioned before, Hahn. I mean, you could go on and on and on, and it's all guys who have kids that buy into their program, buy into their style, and that's what builds a success, and that's what builds a loyalty, and builds that family atmosphere. And and Kading at Mount Carmel. I mean, you know, look at what John Kading's done at Mount Carmel.
Well, stop
then
right
you can
there.
go back to the Whites. You can go back
Stop.
to St. Rita. I mean, and Silvestro at Marmion Academy.
Mac, you do know that Kading's no longer at Mount Carmel, right?
No, I heard the rumors. What? Go ahead,
Okay,
spill it.
John
He's
Kading
at
is
Leiden.
no longer the head.
Did he go to
He's at
Leiden?
Yeah.
Wow. You know, and it's
And
funny how the rumor mill works, because that was just dismissive at first, and then all of a sudden, bang, it happened.
And so there's some people in the hopper, current college coaches and things like that, solid coaches. I can't let the cat out the bag, but it's gonna, you know, they're gonna maintain their tradition over there.
Mount Carmel will be fine. I mean, they're a program. They're not just defined by one individual. They're a program.
But here's the thing. Now you got to, in a few years, worry about Leiden.
Mm-hmm. Which I think is great. I mean, you know, when I wrestled in high school at Oak Park, I mean, East Leiden, Chuck Farina, that was the gold standard. They were a team that if they'd had a dual team state championship back in the late 60s, early 70s, East Leiden might have won 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 maybe. I mean, they were that good. You know, back then, the state championship was only decided by individual state champs. But like I said, again, they had 2 different streaks of over 50 wins in dual meets over the course of those years. I mean, it was insane.
Well, it doesn't take long to build a program. One of the things, and it's interesting that you have the Crystal Lake coach here, is that if you're in the right area, you can build a program fairly quickly. Crystal Lake has a lot of good athletes, and not just in wrestling. They're strong in baseball in that area. They're strong in football in that area. Same thing with Providence. They're strong in that area. Providence, but long before Providence wrestling was big, Providence football was big.
Oh, yeah.
And Providence baseball is still big. Matter of fact, I think I'm going to do their game at the state tournament on Thursday. They're huge. You know, it's the community that makes it big. So when you get a team like a Mount Carmel that doesn't really have community-based kids, you know, that says a lot for how they get their athletes. But I don't think it will take Leiden a long time. They don't have a lot of, and Coach Fontanetta can speak to that more than me, I don't think they have a lot of kids programs in that area.
No, not at all.
No.
Feeding into
Small
them.
ones. Yeah, small ones.
Small ones.
But obviously bringing in a coach the caliber of a John Kading says that they're looking to get into the game.
Yeah, I'm wondering how much Conrad had to do with that.
Probably a lot.
Sure. Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Hey, people with programs that have traditions get tired of not being mentioned anymore. I'm sure when Coach Healy had those few down years, he wasn't liking that. He was all for the Celtic elite building a facility and making them come there. Like, can't you just see him walking in there going to Gertie's? Nah, we don't want to put up a $250,000 facility. Nah, don't do that. No, obviously they want. Conrad probably wants these guys to get in the mix.
Oh, absolutely. Well, he was part of that '78 legacy. You know, I mean, he was part of a team that is a legend in this state. And I am sure, Conrad, was sitting here looking, and they did have Potter for a while. He left, he's looking at something and saying, you know what, we got to be better. And so, and I don't know how this whole thing evolved, but
No, I do, and hey, I'll just put it to you like this: if you've got enough money, you can build it.
well, the money part doesn't hurt.
I tell you what, no team went from nothing to nationally ranked faster than the Army and Cadets. You know they didn't do it with pennies; they did it with quarters and a few dollars here and there.
They did a great job building a program. They
Quickly,
went through their problems. They went through their problems, but they're on solid ground now. And I mean, Joe Silvestro, who I've interviewed many times, he's done an awesome job. And for those who don't know, Marmion assistant coach Silvestro is a St. Edward guy. He came from Ohio. He was part of one of those phenomenal St. Edward teams, which, if you know anything about national wrestling and you know about Blair Academy, you know about St. Edward, Wyoming Seminary, the privates and the preps that are pretty much consistently national powerhouses. Yet Illinois, over the past, has come to the point, where Illinois is one of those states. I mean, when you talk about, Pennsylvania is number one. I mean, I'm not going to even try and dispute that, but Illinois is up there with Ohio, New Jersey.
I'm not impressed with Pennsylvania,
Michigan. Yeah. But
if you look at the Fargo results,
pure depth, speaking of Fargo.
Uh-oh. There's another half an hour.
Here we go.
Hey, Mac.
Right.
Hey, Mac, I need to chime in for a minute. I got another broadcast scheduled, so...
okay.
It's about you. It's about us.
Hey, you got to start talking about wrestling. We're gonna.
I know you guys
run.
Well, I like where it's headed with the debate about national powerhouses and what state's the best and whatnot, and there's some different aspects we could look at there. Maybe we save that for a show next week if you guys are up for it.
Absolutely.
All right, well, go ahead and Mac, ask one last question or wrap it up however you want, and then I got a couple things to say, and we'll move on.
Yeah, no, I'm just going to say I think this was great for a first night. I had a great time, and we got to talk with one of the top coaches in not just Illinois but in the nation, in Coach Healy, and one of the most successful kids program coaches in Anthony Fontanetta, and of course myself and Andre Morgan. We're gonna keep pushing the sport. We're gonna keep promoting the sport. We're gonna try and continue to do the interviews. Last year Illinois Matmen had a down year on the webcast. We're gonna try and bring that back one way or another. And I just want to say thank you for this opportunity, and I hope we can keep this going. And guys, hey, I appreciate it. I enjoyed it. Had a good evening.
Thanks.
Awesome, thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thanks for being on, guys.
I loved it myself. Thanks for having us. And anytime I get to talk to a fellow Hall of Famer like Keith Haley, I mean, I love it. Because he's got so much to share, and competing against him, with my son, competing against his teams and all that, it was just special. Even the losses were special. We try to keep those to a minimum, but
we always do.
Yeah, but that when you wrestle Providence, and I don't know if you remember, Keeper, one time we wrestled you, and I think my son had 101 temperature. He took an L that day, put his head in the side of the garbage can and threw up, and my wife says, "Why did you make him wrestle?" I said, "'Cause it's Providence."
It's Providence.
What do you mean, why did I make him wrestle?
Yeah.
It's not like it was some scrub school. It's been great talking to you, Coach.
Great talking to you guys, too.
Yes, sir.
Coach Fontanetta, just love what you guys are doing up there, Crystal Lake. You need to set up a duel with my twisters where we can bang some heads.
Let's do it.
To get this thing set up, man.
Do it, baby.
People won't duel us, so we stop asking. All right, I'm gonna tell Coach Quint. Okay.
All right.
Tell Coach Quint.
Let's do it.
All right, this was great, and hey, let's look forward to the next one and see who we can pull in.
Thank you, guys.
Sounds good. We'll do another one
Great job.
soon. We'll post on the Facebook pages and things when that'll be. Andre, I love that you got all your errands run during the show.
Oh, hey, I'm at Walmart right now. I picked up my wife. I watered my plants. It's been a productive show.
I know, you look busy.
Absolutely.
It was good. All right, so just real quick, we do have a couple sponsors when we do these programs. There's a company that makes this, has nothing to do with wrestling, but I thought wrestlers might like it because a lot of wrestlers out there like hunting and fishing and things like that. It's called the InstaBlade. They make this knife that is a credit card. You put it in your wallet and you can fold it into a pocket knife. Anyways, they're offering that for free on our website if you just pay the shipping, which is like $4, I think.
Nice.
Anyways, they're offering that for free on our website. To get that, you go to highschoolwrestlingmatches.com/Illinois recommends. And then also on highschoolwrestlingmatches.com, there's a section where you can see by state we have wrestling matches. I don't have any Illinois ones yet. We need to work on that. So if anyone out there who's listening to this podcast or watching the replay wants to post their Illinois high school wrestling matches or even youth matches for that matter, I do have some youth ones, not a ton, but I have some Ohio youth ones on here, some state
Is that
championships.
video content?
The idea behind this is to be the Flow Wrestling. I guess I probably shouldn't use that because that's their name. But everybody knows what Flow Wrestling is. That's where you get all the best matches nationally at college, high school, Olympic level. That's where you get the best matches nationally. But there's so many kids that don't ever make it to that level. And how cool would it be for that kid 20 years from now to be able to jump online and show his family some of his wrestling matches? Well, I went through and I archived mostly Utah matches because I'm in Utah. And I archived about 9,000 matches and realized I couldn't do it myself. And so if anyone out there listening to this wants to get involved archiving your team's matches, here's what's in it for you. First, a lot of teams pay to put their matches on Huddle. There's a cost associated with that, and it's kept private, and some people like that. But I'm of the attitude that there's not really any secrets in wrestling. All the moves and techniques, we all know them. If we don't know them, we figure them out by watching videos. So if you're open to letting everybody watch your matches, posting them on YouTube is the way to go because it's free. And if you want to, you can turn on advertising revenue on there and generate some revenue for your program by putting your matches on YouTube. And then we will take those matches and archive them here underneath your state, Illinois. And I'll give you an example since I have the Utah ones further along here. The idea is that you can then come on here, go to your state, click on teams, see a list of teams, and then when you click on your team, you can see whatever years we have archived there and go back and watch the matches from when you were in high school. And the internet is dragging, so you're not going to, there it goes, come on.
So you're saying
so if I wrestled, let's
YouTube,
say,
correct?
at Alta High School, Alta had a national champ at Fargo a couple years ago. So if I click on here, I can see the years that we currently have matches from Alta High School. Click on a year. Maybe I wrestled 13-14 season. I can click on that and see if any of my matches are there. Okay, the one match that is here is the national champs match at Fargo. Anyways, so check that out, highschoolwrestlingmatches.com. If you want to get involved in archiving some of your matches, there's benefit for you and other wrestlers for doing that. Youth ones are welcome as well. Just send me an email. It's Kurt@highschoolwrestlingmatches.com. That's Kurt with a C at highschoolwrestlingmatches.com. And that's it for today's podcast. And we'll see you next time when we have more Illinois Mat Men on the line. All right? Have a good night.
Thank you much,
Good night.
Kurt.